We bring in the former budget director under President Ronald Reagan and author of Trumped, David Stockman. David, Donald Trump crushed tech titans. He also crushed Yellen during the campaign. I just need your thought on whether he backs off a little bit on that.
No, I think he ought to do the opposite. I think Yellen proved again today that she is lost in some kind of Keynesian puzzle palace. She ought to be put out to pasture as soon as possible. He ought to ask for her resignation on January 20th, because unless this bubble is lanced, and there is a huge bubble in these markets, the Trump administration is never going to come out the other side. When she was asked today was, what about Dow 20,000? And she had no clue that this is a massive bubble. I mean, the S&P is trading at 25 times earnings. Look at what's happened to the Russell since the election, up 20%, up 40% since last February. It's trading, by the way, at 247 times the actual earnings of the Russell 2000. So we have a Fed that has created massive distortions, total mispricing in the bond and stock market, a very unstable bubble everywhere, and he would be well advised to clean house. If you want to drain the swamp, the place to start is in the Eccles building, because that's where this entire false economy, this big, fat, ugly bubble that Trump talked about during the campaign actually originates.
Well, listen, it's not a popularity contest, David. Let me push back a little bit. Ronald Reagan had a guy who was rather unpopular heading the Fed at a certain point, and that was Paul Volcker. He inherited terrible inflation and a stagnant economy, and what did he do? He tightened rates dramatically, even though it was hugely unpopular, but it worked. Reagan stuck with Volcker, even with multiple calls to make Paul Volcker step down.
Yes,
I mean,
but that's exactly my point. That's my point. I'm not complaining about Yellen tightening. It's ludicrous that we got 96 months before we even got a tiny baby step upward. What I'm talking about is a Fed that has interfered and intruded so heavily in the financial markets they don't work anymore. That's what I'm talking about. Ronald Reagan, Trump should take a leaf from Ronald Reagan's notebook. He said, let's get it over with. Advance the boil, stop the inflation, do what you have to do. I was there. I saw Reagan supporting Volcker every step of the way, even though a lot of the politicians around him didn't want it to happen. And what I'm suggesting is the situation is parallel today. If we don't get this market back to some kind of rational basis, if we don't clean house at the Fed and get people in there that will give capitalism a chance to work, and the bond market to price on its own, and the money market to find a real level, the whole hope that Trump has given to the country will be lost. And I might say on that, the biggest problem today, he's got all these technology titans there, and corporate America, the biggest problem today is that corporate America is being drained of capital as they pump money into stock buybacks and dividends and M&A deals, more than 100% in their income.
David, thank you for joining us via Skype from Aspen. We so appreciate it.
Very good.
Listen, his voice is so important. We moved heaven and earth to even just get a shot, because on a day like this, that's the guy, at least one of them, you want to hear from, David Stockman.